A function is increasing over an interval if, as you move left to right, the graph rises. A function is decreasing over an interval if, as you move left to right, the graph falls. A function is constant over an interval if, as you move left to right, the graph remains horizontal. Looking at this graph, we're going to start at the leftmost point, which is -6, 0, because in math we're always reading graphs left to right. So if I put my pencil on the leftmost point, -6, 0, and start to trace left to right, my graph begins to fall, so it's decreasing until I get to the point -4, -2. So I'm going to mark my graph with an arrow and trace it along here. So that's indicating this graph is decreasing from -6, 0 to -4, -2. But once I hit this dip in the graph, it turns around and it starts to rise. And it rises until I hit this point, 0, 4. Then at 0, 4, the graph flattens out. It remains horizontal, so it's constant until we hit the point 3, 4. And then at that point, the graph starts to fall again, all the way until you reach the rightmost point, which is 6, 1. So it's decreasing from the point 3, 4 to 6, 1. To describe where a graph is increasing, decreasing, and constant, we're going to use interval notation. We say that this graph is increasing on this interval here, where this arrow is pointing up, where the graph is rising. When we describe location in math, we're always using x values. So the leftmost x value of this increasing region is -4. It starts at -4. It increases until you hit the x value 0. So I can say this graph is increasing on the interval from -4 to 0. And I use parentheses around the boundaries because at this dip in the graph, it's actually switching direction from decreasing to increasing. So it doesn't make sense to include that boundary in the increasing because it's actually changing directions there. So on the boundaries here, we're going to use parentheses. Now let's describe intervals on which the graph is decreasing. So if I start here, this arrow is pointing down, so the graph decreases from -6 until -4, and then also from 3 to 6. So I have the interval -6 to -4 and the interval 3 to 6. And then I can describe that this graph is constant on the interval where it's horizontal here, which is x values between 0 and 3. So I use interval notation, parenthesis 0, 3.